So I am Heidi Zapata. I am an infectious disease doctor at the Yale School of Medicine, and I have been seeing patients from the beginning of the pandemic. Been very busy year. I also happen to do research on why our immune system changes as we get older, which is actually kind of timely with the pandemic.
hmm
So yeah, that's me.
So,
Thank you for having me, James.
yeah, thank you for being on the show. Right now, I heard this morning that we are back up to 5%. That's the new infection rate. So, I guess the first question is, how are we doing in Connecticut? Are we winning the war here, or exactly what is going on? What are you seeing as a doctor?
So I will say I just finished 2 weeks in March, and I was really busy. I was seeing a number of people who had not gotten the vaccine yet and gotten sick. I saw a fair amount of young people. I saw a number of people who had just gotten one dose, but then kind of relaxed their precautions and got sick. So yeah, I mean, I think infectivity rates are rising, and so I think, look, this has been a really long haul. I get
Yes, it
it.
has. Yes, it has.
People are kind of sick of these precautions, and I do think the way we win this war is by getting more people vaccinated. I am encouraged by the vaccination rates so far in Connecticut. It looks like around 80% of those 75 or older have been vaccinated. And
hmm
now the last numbers I saw were about 38% for those 16 and older. And I actually participated in one of the vaccine clinics the other day, and I was busy. I was vaccinating people. So, I mean, it's good. People want to get vaccinated for the most part. But for the most part, and we can talk about for the most part, but I think that's the way we win. We keep with the precautions, and we try to get as many people as we can vaccinated.
Okay. There was a time, and I think this is still going on, where there was a big concern about minorities not wanting to take
Yeah.
the vaccine because of mistrust in the medical community. How are we doing with minorities? Are more coming forward, or is there still a lot of hesitancy?
I mean, I think there is still hesitancy, James. And I think you might agree with that too. But I am encouraged that in Connecticut, the vaccine trials, we had a good amount of minorities come out for the vaccine, about 40%. And have been participating in a number of town halls to try to get, the word out, try to answer some questions. And honestly, the hesitancy is there for a reason. I mean, these are real concerns that people have. And
Sure.
so I've been trying my best to just get the word out, and just answer questions for people that are still worried about it.
I was really surprised listening to the news this morning, and they had a breakdown of men who would
Hmm.
and would not take it. And of course, it's all political right now. And what their survey found was that 50% of male Republicans would not take the vaccine. 25% of uh, Democratic males would not take the vaccine. Why do you think there is so much fear about this vaccine? It doesn't have the same kind of the thing as the flu shot. It doesn't seem to carry the same fear factor. So what is going on, and why are people so hesitant? Is it because of the way the vaccine was rolled out, do you think?
So, I mean, I don't, I'm not, I can't really speak for the Republic, those
No,
statistics. But I will say, I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there that I've been hearing. So a few things. So I think how fast the rollout came out is something that I keep hearing. And I will say that for vaccine trials, they were done properly for sure. I mean, the FDA was very careful about how it was done. I mean, I think the rollout was quick because we were in the midst of an emergency pandemic, and I think that was appropriate. But, each of these trials were done in thousands of people, and they were properly done. And, I mean, that's the way vaccine trials are normally done, except they just don't have as many resources to get it done quickly. So in terms of timeliness, I think it was done properly. In addition to that, people have questions often about what the vaccines are and what is coming into their body, and that's a concern. And so for the mRNA vaccines that Pfizer and Moderna have,
Hmm.
I usually say, so mRNA, so DNA is kind of like the blueprint that our bodies are constructed from, kind of like it's kind of the instructions for our body to make things.
Hmm.
And what we're putting in this vaccine is really just a small blueprint for a protein in the virus. And it's the protein, when you look at the pictures, that makes the crown. It's what we call the spike protein.
Okay.
And that mRNA, so that blueprint, is put in your body, and it basically prints out this protein so that your body can see it. So it's kind of teaching your body what the virus looks like. And then that blueprint is quickly degraded. So it doesn't remain in your body. So it's really just a way of teaching your immune system so that to know what the virus, this protein looks like, so that when it encounters it again, it can, bring defenses and cells to fight the infection. The Johnson and Johnson vaccine is a similar idea with the same instructions for this protein, except it uses a cold virus to carry the instructions. So they're all have a similar idea. They want our immune system, which is made up of all these cells that fight infection, to recognize this protein and then be able to fight it later. So I try to explain that so people understand, because it is scary. Some people are worried that they're being injected with God knows what. No, it's
Yes,
true. I
it's
mean,
true. A lot of people are very, very, very concerned about that. And I think one of the other things is, and now we seem to have different vaccines for the
mhm,
same virus. One, you take two shots. One,
yep.
the other, you take one shot. So I think people are just a little confused. Because I don't think that all of these people who are refusing to take the vaccine are anti-vaxxers, so to speak. I don't think that they're
Mm,
like that. I think that they just don't have what they feel is good information for
right.
them to take it, because there shouldn't be a fear right now. My family, for example, were very, very hesitant. But after the shots started being administered and there were nobody dropped dead, no one got
Yeah.
extremely sick.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so they've been slowly going and getting the vaccine. And
Okay.
quite frankly, we Zoom on Wednesdays and Saturdays, and they've kind of made it clear we want to get together, but we're not getting together until everybody has been vaccinated. So
That's
I
really smart. I think that's really smart. Yeah.
well, I think for my family, and of course I'm the the ringleader there, and it's every day. When we talk, did you get the vaccine? Did you, So I think families will play a big part in those who are maybe hesitant of taking the vaccine. will go ahead and get the vaccine in order to just be with their family members again.
Right.
But there are some new strains out here, and I think
Right.
this is one of the things. It's we seem to conquer and then have two steps back.
Yeah.
And I think it's confusing to people. So, what about these new strains? What can you tell us about them, and how can you kind of alleviate our fears a little bit?
Okay, so I will say that viruses in general are constantly changing. This is something we've known from the beginning. And actually, I remember last year there was a new strain that was causing a lot of concern. And honestly, it kind of quickly took over the landscape of the viruses infecting people. So it's a normal part of being a virus. It's kind of the idea of why we do a flu shot every year, because the flu shot is constantly changing what's circulating out there. So the strains that are out there that are of concern, first of all, is the B.1.1.7, the UK variant that kind of took over what was happening in the UK or Great Britain. Currently, um, it represents about 40% of the cases in Connecticut. So it is definitely in Connecticut. What we know about the UK variant is that it is more infectious, more meaning more contagious.
Hmm.
And so I would say is number one, we should still be careful about precautions in public places for sure. And there is some evidence that it can be more deadly. So in terms of the vaccines, it looks like the vaccines, from what we can measure, are effective against this UK variant.
Hmm.
There's another variant, there's a couple of other variants out there, including the South African variant, which is not as prominent in Connecticut at the moment, but that we're not sure exactly about efficacy of the vaccine. There does seem to be some decrease that we see in the way we measure vaccine effectiveness. Now, I will say the way we can measure vaccine effectiveness at this point is by measuring antibody levels. Do you know what I mean by an
Right.
antibody, James?
Yes, I do.
So, so it's kind of like that Y-shaped protein that our body produces to kind of capture things. And currently, it's kind of one of the only ways. It's one of the easiest ways to measure vaccine effectiveness, but it's only one way. It's only measuring one branch of our immune system. And so the reality is we don't know for sure how the vaccines are going to work until we see the real world data. So in terms of the variants, I think the UK one should probably be covered by the vaccine. The South African variant, I would say there may be some decreases noted there, but I will say overall that there is still a good amount of protection that the vaccine will give you. And so I would still recommend getting it. I mean, even if these variants are circulating, if everyone has some protection against the virus,
Hmm.
then this will still decrease transmission, right? In terms of the variants and the future, I suspect, and this is just a hypothesis, meaning a prediction,
Hmm.
that we may need boosters every year to
I
kind
was
of deal with
That was my
these
next question to
variants.
you.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see how things kind of roll out. But for now, I would definitely recommend getting the vaccines that are out there. I know there's three approved in the US, right? The Pfizer, Moderna, and the Johnson and
And
Johnson.
isn't there something coming from? I can't pronounce the name of the company. It's AZ something or a right,
AstraZeneca, yeah. So
right.
they're so that right. So that may be approved soon too. So I mean, I would say that they're all pretty comparable vaccines, and I would encourage anyone to get it.
I read something yesterday which shocked me. I really did not know this. And
Uh-huh.
it really surprised me. And that was a report that the vaccine is only good or effective for 6 months. and there was some concern about seniors who had gotten the vaccine over a year ago, and they're going back with these boosters and so forth. So if the vaccine is only good for 6
Well,
months, go
I
ahead.
don't think we I don't think we know that yet, James. I mean,
Okay,
I think vaccine like effectiveness and how long it lasts, I think we're trying to figure that out
we're still
still.
trying to figure that out. Okay,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
all right, what about lockdowns? I mean, it's just announced that France, Italy, and I think
Yeah.
some other countries they're going back into lockdown. That's scary, particularly when you
Yeah.
consider the number of people who have passed away, um, and so forth. That it's just scary that we're facing another lockdown with the U.S. opening up, and sooner or later the U.S. had to open up. You just can't stay
Yeah.
in lockdown. Do you
Yeah.
think that might be the reason why things are spiking, or do you see another lockdown in our immediate future?
So I don't know if you remember the CDC directors kind of plead with people about, just
A
holding on a little longer
little
with
longer.
precautions and vaccines. And I think it's because we see this possibility of a fourth surge and we're worried. I mean, look, I people are tired. I mean, a number of the infections I saw in the hospital when I was there recently were from people going out and having a drink or have eating in a restaurant. I get it. I miss having that stuff
Yes,
too.
me too.
But I mean, I just I don't think we're there yet because I mean, I just think we need to hold. I agree. I think we need to hold out a little longer, get more people vaccinated until we can get to that degree of normalcy. And I do worry that we're heading towards a fourth surge if we don't tr- keep going. Sometimes it's kind of like going in the same direction and doing the same thing over and over again. And it's hard for a lot of people to keep doing it. It's just, I think, kind of what we need to do until we get to that degree of herd immunity, and that means most people being vaccinated. And even with most people being vaccinated, there's going to be some people who don't have as good protection from it because of various reasons, right? They Because of older age. I mean, we saw this before with the flu vaccine. People who are immunocompromised, meaning they have transplants or other reasons for being immunocompromised, their immune system is not as good. And so I think for all those reasons, we're doing a kind of a social duty by getting vaccinated because it does protect the population at large.
One of the interviews I listened to a man who was reluctant to take it. In fact, he says he's not going to take it.
Yeah,
He wears a mask. He's willing to wear a mask. He's
yeah,
social distancing. He agrees with, and he's not an anti-vaxxer. What he says is that I just don't believe the information that is out there. I need this information to come from people I trust,
yeah.
family, friends,
I get it.
even people in the medical community who he has been associated with or under care for a number of years. And I understand him when he says that, and I'll tell you something that really confuses me. We're talking about vaccines that
Yeah,
are effective against a virus, but at the same time, the president announces a $500,000 contest to come up with the perfect mask. And that just threw me because, in my estimation, by the time you go through this contest, award, a winner, and the mask is produced, aren't we looking at least a year? So if we are looking at new masks to prevent the transition, then how effective is the vaccine? And I think that just threw a lot of people. because I think people just assume that once they got the vaccine and we continue to wear our everyday masks that we have, that was going to end this. But with the announcement of, let's find a more effective mask. Well, what are we talking about here?
Yeah,
But
I didn't know about this contest.
yeah, he just and Heidi, that's just something that came about in the last 2 days. I think so. I can understand. No, but it's just jarring because we're led to believe, hey, get this shot of your arm, and you're pretty much on your way. And so it's a little. I can see why people are confused,
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
and I can, and I don't know how you overcome that. I really don't. I don't know how you overcome that.
I mean, I would say, James, that I don't know if mask wearing is going to go away entirely in public places.
Wow.
It really depends on where we get with herd immunity, right? And how these variants kind of evolve. I will say we won't get there for sure if people refuse to get vaccinated. I mean, it's kind of like this catch
Yeah,
22. I
catch
mean,
22 situation there, yes.
but I mean, I see what you're saying. But I do. I suspect that at some, I don't think mask wearing is going to go entirely away for a while, at least in public places, just given how things are evolving. But like I said, we won't get there. We won't
Unless
even
we
have
get
a chance of getting there if we don't consider at least getting vaccinated first. And again, we talked about the possibility of boosters in the future. I don't know for sure how that's going to evolve, but I think it's a possibility. But in terms of your friend, I would say I get it. I understand wanting information from trusted people. I totally get that. I mean, as a physician and a scientist, I am very careful about what I read. And I mean, I honestly am trying to be quite honest with you and your audience and with the information I'm giving you.
and I think they'll appreciate that. I don't think my listeners want the la-di-da. I think they want the truth. And I think most
Yeah,
people can deal with the truth if we're going, because most people I know have made it clear that uh, irregardless to what officials say and so forth, they're going to continue to wear the mask, and they're going to continue to attempt to social distance. Everybody I know pretty much says that same thing. They're not giving up the mask. So I think most people are on board with what officials, the health officials, are trying to do to stop this spread. But again, it is that vaccine that has a lot of people concerned. At any rate,
I will say what you mentioned before about family, just on a personal note, honestly, my parents are both vaccinated now. I'm kind of waiting for that 2 week period, and I'm planning to see them at the end of the month, and then I'm excited just to be able to see them again, James. And so that does give me some hope, honestly, for the future, to at least be able to interact with my family, if we're all vaccinated.
yeah, I think for a lot of people that might be what pushes them to go ahead and get the vaccine, because we're all missing our families. We all, and again,
Yeah,
I zoom constantly with them. I talk constantly with them, but there's no substitute for being at the dinner table, with them. So,
right.
I think that that's going to go a long way in helping people make a decision as to whether they're going to take the vaccine or not. Heidi,
Right.
is there anything that I have not asked you? Is there anything that you would like to add before we leave here?
Um, no, I guess that last uh, thing we talked about, just hope and being able to be with our families, something to consider, and something to consider when you're considering getting the vaccine.